Good afternoon. It is Friday, and it's time for our Lunch and Learn. Now, last week, we did not see you because guess what? We were trying to recover from Hurricane Beryl. Don't know where you are in the world, but hopefully you have recovered as well. We still have some people in our area that have no power, and so just want you to know when you catch up with us, because obviously if you have no power, you probably don't have the ability to watch this video, but we are praying for you. We are hoping that things get resolved very quickly because we are so, and one of the things that this hurricane has taught me is how dependent we are on internet, digital sources for videos, music, reading, all that kind of stuff. So when everything is down, it's very difficult. And I understand today Microsoft has a worldwide outage and all of the airplanes are affected. So I don't know what's going on in this crazy world, but anyway, it is what it is. So I'm glad you're here with me. We're going to be talking today about heavy metal, dementia, and tattoos. So there's two reports that I'm combining just because they were short reports, and they're connected. And so one of the things that we're seeing more and more and more is a diagnosis of cognitive decline, whether that's dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever they call it. It's on the rise. And so there are some statistics here that we want to talk about and how we can protect ourselves and what we need to do so that we are not having these issues. So a glowing body of research is sounding the alarm on heavy metals and cognitive decline. The heavy metals can be in our medication. They are in the water that we drink. They're also in the air that we breathe. Now, you may or may not know that I don't know who they are. I'm going to call it HARP, I think it's HAARP. I think that's the acronym. But what they do is they do geoengineering. And supposedly it is for our good, but we do know that they seed the clouds. Not quite sure what they seed them with. I read it recently, but I don't really remember. But they seed the clouds with heavy metal in order to cause rain in desert areas. That's what they tell us they do. Anyway, I'm not really quite sure what they do. But for years and years and years, we've seen and read about chemtrails. And I've seen the inside of these planes with these big vats of chemicals in there that the planes fly and they disperse these chemicals into the air. Now, not quite sure what their motive is, not quite sure what it is supposed to do for us, but I don't think it's very healthy, and I'm a bit concerned. But we're getting heavy metals in our water because we know that we've got chlorine and we know that we have fluoride in the water, and so that is a source of heavy metals. We know that our medications have traces of heavy metals in there, and then, of course, the air that we breathe. Now, in the environment, the heavy metals that are most available are cadmium, aluminum, and lead. So Google these and you'll see that they're not good. They're not good to be ingested. And when we do have that in the environment, it's hard not to be a partaker of it. And so what we need to do is just be aware and do strategies so that what goes in also comes out. All right. 7 million Americans live with Alzheimer's disease, and this number is projected to double by the year 2050. That's a lot of people with cognitive decline. And I think as I get older, that's one of the things that I am most concerned about in my life is cognitive decline. I do not want that to happen. And I do a lot of things to prevent that from happening. So if you guys see that I'm headed that way, you got to reach out and let me know because I'm doing everything I can to not let that happen. So studies on humans consistently demonstrate that exposure to lead, cadmium, and manganese are associated with impaired cognitive function and with cognitive decline. Cadmium in particular has been increasingly released into the environment through industrial activities such as coal mining and the use of phosphate fertilizer on the crops. You know what else is a big contributor to cadmium? Is smoking. Smoking cigarettes. There is a lot of cadmium in cigarettes. So that's one of the reasons why we don't smoke. All right. And so just be aware that if you are a smoker, that you need to be working on heavy metals, because cadmium is one of those things that is in cigarettes. Aluminum is another metal that is linked with increased risk of dementia, and it's being considered as part of the potential geoengineering methods to mitigate climate change through the injection of aerosol into the lower atmosphere. This could lead to an increased risk of exposure to aluminum compounds for humans and other ecosystems. The legalization of marijuana is in a growing number of U.S. states may also exacerbate the problem of toxic heavy metal exposure. A 2023 study found that cannabis users had significantly higher levels of lead and cadmium in their blood and urine than did non-users. Researchers discovered that the cadmium levels in cannabis users were on average 22% higher in the blood and 18% higher in the urine. Lead levels were elevated by 27% in the blood and 21% in the urine. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about this. So there is the legalization of marijuana for sure, but there's also in your health food stores and on every corner CBD shops. Now, in Texas, we cannot have more than 3%, I think it's 0.03% of THC. However, a lot of the CBD comes from China and different countries that are not testing their soil and making sure that their soil is not contaminated. So as we see the increase in CBD use, we do have CBD here at the clinic. We do. On every bottle, there is a QR code that you can look at the lab report so you know there are no heavy metals in the CBD that you get from us. So that is really, really important. If you're going to do CBD, and why not? I mean, it's a good product. You want to make sure that it's clean, and you want to make sure that you're reading those reports so that you know that what you're putting in your body is not contaminated. So that's one of the things that we see as a trend. More and more people are using CBD products, and I don't have a problem with that. We've got an endocannabinoid system, and CBD, full spectrum CBD, does a lot for that, and I'm all for that, but you want to make sure that your products are very, very clean, because if you don't, then you're ingesting these heavy metal toxins, and you could have issues with your cognitive decline. All right, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, there is no safe level of lead. All right. I want to go back to aluminum. Do you know how you get most of your aluminum in your body? You get it from injections. So in almost every injection, we've got a schedule of them, and almost every one, there is aluminum in there. And so you want to make sure that you can monitor it. I mean, you can do a blood test and find out how much heavy metals you have. You can do DNA hair analysis and find out how much heavy metals you have. And you can do a lot of things to mitigate that, but don't be sticking your head in the dirt thinking that you don't have heavy metal toxicity, because it is in the environment. If you use antiperspirant, you are putting aluminum chlorhydrate in your armpits, and that is contributing to the aluminum toxicity in your body. And aluminum does cross the blood-brain barrier, and this is why it is linked to dementia and cognitive decline. All right? So some metals can adversely affect neurological health. Many essential trace metals could potentially reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. The trace minerals play a crucial role in maintaining brain health. So magnesium is a neuroprotective, and it reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. Zinc is essential for immune functions and brain communication. Copper reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. And then selenium improves cognition in mild cognitive impairment. So these are trace elements. They are metals, but they're trace elements that we need. So if you're taking a good multi-mineral, multivitamin, a good one, then you should have these trace elements in there, so you should be healthy. They can mitigate the damage of the aluminum, the lead, and the cadmium. So we want to make sure that we look at that and deal with that so that we're aware of what's going on, because we don't want to wake up at 80 years old or sometimes even younger, and you find that you're having these senior moments, is what we used to laughingly call them. Now that I'm a senior, I don't think it's so funny, but I do a lot to make sure that I am taking care of these things that are in our environment. None of us are immune from it. Everybody is exposed to it, and so we just need to take remediative action. So you can find these trace minerals in your foods. So various nuts such as almonds, walnuts, pecans, your seeds such as flax seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds, your legumes, your lentils, your chickpeas, your black beans, and your whole grains, which are your whole oats, your quinoa, your barley, all right? Although these trace minerals may have a I can't speak today. Although these trace minerals may have a neuroprotective effect, they are not a substitute for established treatments for Alzheimer's disease or dementia. Comprehensive treatment includes lifestyle changes, medication, cognitive changes, and sometimes you just have to quit eating the things that you're eating. So prolonged exposure to aluminum can lead to changes associated with brain aging and neurodegeneration. In a scientific review published in Toxicology, it showed that the use of antacids made with aluminum hydroxide is one of the main sources of aluminum exposure in humans. Now, I don't think it's the main one. I think the main one is the injections. I think the second main one is deodorant, because almost everybody uses deodorant or antiperspirant. I used to use antiperspirant because I don't like to be sweaty. However, when I found out that using aluminum chlorohydrate contributed to breast cancer, I quit using antiperspirants and I use all natural deodorants now. So what happens with that, so your breasts are lymphatic tissue. You've got lymph nodes in your pits, you've got lymph nodes here, but you've got lymph nodes down your spinal column too. And so if you are plugging up your lymph nodes with antiperspirant, then the lymph can't circulate and drop off all those toxic things that we're trying to get rid of, because we are closing the pathways of elimination. This is another reason why I stopped wearing underwire bras. I like underwire bras because I like the way I look, I like the way they fit, I like all that. However, those underwires cut off the circulation of the lymphatic flow, and it is a contributor to breast cancer. So guess what? I quit doing that, and I don't, I buy bras that have support but do not have underwires, because I want to make sure that my lymphatic system is able to do what it needs to do to cleanse all of the body from all the things. And so your lymphatic system is the vacuum cleaner of the body. It just sucks everything up. It deposits it in the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes have macrophages and phagocytes, and they eat up, like a little Pac-Man, eat up all the things that we don't want. If those pathways are clogged, then we're going to have issues, and our body is not going to work the way that it needs to. And so we need to make sure that we're not doing some of those things. Now, the report says there is no known way to reverse the damage caused by aluminum exposure. Dr. Charles M. Jansen, who is an internal medicine specialist in Cincinnati, says that the brain is demonstrated to have some plasticity and regenerative ability, but the best course of action is to remove the source causing the insult. So what can we do with that? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do. Cilantro, which is a spice, it is very, very effective at heavy metal toxicity, clearing the body of heavy metals. So it's not a flavor that I particularly like. I just don't like it. But there are some people that absolutely love it. And those people, when we test them, a lot of them do have a lot of heavy metal toxicity. So kind of use that anecdotal evidence. If you're somebody that absolutely loves cilantro, then you may have a toxic load of heavy metals. Somebody that's not, that doesn't mean that you're free and clear. You're going to have to do something differently. But one of the most inexpensive things that you can do is to add cilantro to your food, because it is a heavy metal chelator. The way we are exposed to these metals vary. With lead and arsenic, it is primarily through dietary sources, and for other metals, it is more due to occupational exposure. Certain foods and spices, including imported candy, coriander, turmeric, chili powder, have also been found to contain lead. Although aluminum has been associated with impaired cognition, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to throw out your aluminum cookware. These metals need to be in a certain state, such as a gas or a liquid, to be absorbed into our bodies and cause harm. Now, I don't know that I agree with that, okay? I have read studies that show that when you use aluminum cookware, the aluminum is leached out into your food, and so when you consume that food, that you're consuming those heavy metals. Same thing with aluminum foil. Now, a lot of people use aluminum foil, and yes, I have aluminum foil in my kitchen, okay? I use it very, very sparingly because we know that aluminum is a neurotoxin, and I do not want to be putting that into my body. There are some times, I don't think if you use it to cover food, I don't think that's a big deal. But if you use it to cook the food in, I think there can be some transference of those atoms. So just be careful about that if you do a lot of that. Aluminum is very, very much a neurotoxin. I remember a couple of Christmases ago, we were at Bed Bath & Beyond, and I wanted to buy a popcorn maker. And they had one, and it was on sale, and it's a base with a little wand that turns, and it's got a bowl that sits on top of it and that kind of thing. And so I was going to get that. But when I looked and saw that the base of it was made out of aluminum, I said, no, we're not going to do that because we don't want aluminum cookware. Now, eventually I found Pampered Chef had one, and yes, it was way more expensive than the one at the Bed Bath & Beyond, but it doesn't have aluminum in it. And so therefore, it was better for my mission of avoiding the intake of heavy metals and all that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we do everything that we can in order to avoid ingesting, breathing, all that kind of thing. So if you're taking medication, there's not a lot you can do about that because they're not going to fix it to your specifications. You just get what you get from the pharmacy. However, you can change your cookware. You can change how you cook your food, all that kind of stuff. So there are things that we can do. Now, tattoos, a lot of people have tattoos, and it's becoming more and more common, but the research is showing that the inks that are used in tattoos also have heavy metals. So if you think about it, we know that when you get a tattoo, it's all bright and the colors are vivid and all that kind of thing, but as time goes on, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that tattoo starts to fade. Now, why is that? This is because the liver takes care of the skin, and the liver will pull that ink and destroy that ink because the body knows that it is toxic. So just throwing that out there. I know a lot of people have tattoos, and I'm not making a value judgment on that. I'm just saying that it is something that's really, it can be serious. And this report says that people with tattoos have a higher risk of lymphoma. Now, lymphoma is a cancer. So if having tattoos introduces heavy metals into the body, which the report says that it does, and having tattoos also gives you a greater risk of lymphoma, I'm going to rethink having tattoos. Now, I don't have any, but, it's just not been one of my life goals to do that. But now that I know that tattoos cause an increase in the risk of lymphoma, then I'm going to think a little bit twice. There's a new study that shows that the ink used in creating popular body art contains toxic ingredients linked to a higher risk of lymphoma, a cancer that begins in the lymphatic system. Having just a single tattoo seems to raise the odds of you getting cancer. So tattoos have grown in popularity as a means of self-expression, and about 32% of Americans have a tattoo, and an estimated 22% have more than one. That's a lot of the population. It's not everybody, but it's a lot. However, as the tattoos have become more widespread, it has led to the incidence of malignant lymphoma increasing 3% to 4% over the past 40 years. Now, a 1% increase is not that great, but if you're looking at a very large population and it is increasing, then it is a very, very many people that are having this. And so we don't want to add to our chances of getting cancer, because the statistics are 1 in 3 men will have cancer and 1 in 2 women will have cancer. And so it is environmentally linked. I believe that. I believe it's environmentally linked with our food as well, because we're all eating food that is not real food. It's been modified. It's been changed. It's been all the things that we don't want to even talk about, all right? And so we want to make sure that what we can control, we do control. There was a study that was published in Sweden in the Lancet E-Clinical Medicine that suggests a possible connection with tattoos and lymphoma. The study analyzed data from 12,000 people aged 20 to 60 and matched them with a control group of the same age and same sex without lymphoma. Now, the participants completed questionnaires about lifestyle factors, including tattoos, and the researchers found that those with tattoos are more likely to develop malignant lymphoma than those without tattoos. So give yourself a check, see where you are, and then if you have a lot of tattoos, I'm not saying that you have to go and get them removed. I'm just saying start working on heavy metal toxicity and get that out of your body so it's not an encumbrance and your immune system can keep you well instead of having to fight all of those things that it's fighting, all right? So people with tattoos had a 21% higher risk of developing any type of lymphoma, adjusting for other factors there. So the lymphoma risk is highest, 81%, for those who get their first tattoo less than 2 years before being diagnosed. So that's a really weird way to say this, but what this is saying is once you get your tattoo, if you're going to get lymphoma, you're going to get it just after the 2-year mark, right? So if you're past the 2 years, you can kind of breathe easier on that, okay? So not saying it's okay to have tattoos, but just saying that the study shows that 81% are going to get tattoos less than 2 years before, or less than 2 years after having their tattoo. The risk decreased for those who had gotten their tattoos 3 to 10 years ago, but then increased again 19% higher for those who had their first tattoo 11 or more years ago. And the study, the size of the tattoo did not matter. So you could have something that's really, really little, but it's still going to increase your risk. They don't know why the size doesn't matter. You would think that if this heavy metal is a big deal, that the more you had, the higher your risk would be, but that's not what the study is saying. So Christelle Nielsen, she led the study. She said one can only speculate that a tattoo, regardless of size, triggers low-grade inflammation in the body, which in turn can trigger cancer. The research is the first to investigate tattoos as a risk of cancer in the lymphatic system. Further studies are needed to make sure that what we're doing, it bears out that research. Now, as a holistic practitioner, me, myself, right, I don't want to be taking any medicines, and I'm not. I don't want to have any diseases, and I don't. Okay, so hallelujah for that. However, I do a lot of work. I do a detox regimen every year, at least once a year. If you have a lot of tattoos, then you're going to want to do something regularly. Now, I would say maybe once a quarter, once every 6 months, certainly more than once a year if you have a lot of tattoos, because you have a lot of body work, and so that means you have a lot of toxic ink in your body. So we've got this, which is called Metachlor. I absolutely love it. It is cracked cell chlorella. And I don't think it has anything else in there. I think it just has cracked cell chlorella, which is a heavy metal chelator. So I like this. I like this one, same company. They're rebranding, but it's the same company. This is a heavy metal chelator, but it also works on funguses, parasites, just different things, but it also works on heavy metals. So I like this one too because it's more broad reaching. I also have a spray that we're talking about dementia and that kind of thing. I have a spray that you spray right into the roof of your mouth. I'm sold out. I sold the last one this morning. I wanted to show you what it is, but it is a great homeopathic spray. You spray it right into your roof of your mouth, and what it does is it just drains the brain of all the heavy metal. So that's something that I like. But this is something that we brought into the clinic as well. It's called the comprehensive detox. It's homeopathic. I like it, and it's got 6 different little bottles in here, and it detoxes your whole body. That's why it's called comprehensive. But the very first one is on the brain, so it's going to work on heavy metals and that kind of thing. The brain, the spinal column, your gut, your liver, your kidney, your bladder, and then your immune system. So I love this. We've had a lot of people that have done this. Steve and I did this one this year. Remember, I told you I do it every year, right? Well, Steve and I did this one this year. Neither one of us had any kind of complications. Neither one of us had any die-off. Neither one of us had any kind of that healing crisis that you can go through if you're trying to do a heavy metal detox or a parasite detox or whatever you're trying to do. So you want to do something comprehensive because all of us have parasites, all of us have viruses, all of us have heavy metals. I don't know if I said that already. All of us have bacteria, all of us have fungus. We all have all those things. I personally have a cat, have 2 cats. Cats are notorious for parasites. If you live in a farm, if you live out in the land and you walk around barefoot on the land, you're going to have parasites. It's just the way it works. I have seen video of a person being in a lake, and I have seen a worm go right into the pore of the leg, and it's like, I don't even want to go in the lake anymore. And I spent all my life as a young girl. We lived on the lake, and I spent time in the lake. You know, it's like, oh, why do we have to know these things, right? But knowledge is power. And when you know those things, then you can take care of those things. With our animals, we worm our animals once a year. With ourselves, we need to worm ourselves once a year. All right? So this one's comprehensive. It does all the things. But these 2 and that other spray that I talked about, they work specifically on heavy metals. So if you're someone who has a lot of tattoos, you want to talk to me about that. If you're someone that has a lot of injections, you get injections every year, you want to talk to me about that. If you're someone that is taking care of somebody that has cognitive decline, we can help. If you are feeling like you're losing your edge, we can help. It's a whole lot easier to turn, when you're not far down the track than it is for you to already be in a full-blown disease state and try and get that reversed. It can happen. It is expensive, and it takes diligence, and it takes lifestyle changes and all that. If you are just now feeling the edge, oh yeah, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm not quite as sharp as I used to be, it's real easy to turn that around. And usually when people start taking things for heavy metal, they can feel the difference within about 2 or 3 weeks. So if this is you, reach out to me and I will help you, because all of us want to have all of our faculties for as long as we can. And if we know that we're getting heavy metal toxicity through smoking, breathing, drinking water, eating food, taking medication, which we all do. We all do. We don't all smoke. We don't all take medication, but we all breathe. We all eat, right? So we're all exposed to this. So all of us need to be doing preventative maintenance, and we've got all the good stuff. Okay, so let me know what you need. Thank you for joining me. It is the weekend. Hopefully by now everybody has their power resolved. You can breathe easily, and you can use this weekend to rest and recover. I will see you next week. Thanks for liking, commenting, sharing, all the things. I appreciate the time that you afford me every week, and I'll see you next week.